DuoPower wall anchors, are they any good? Let's see what happens on the other side of the drywall, a side that you normally don't see. And let's see how much weight these things can actually hold and if they fail on you. Start by drilling the proper size hole. You want to make sure that your hole is smaller than the plug or anchor. You want to be able to tap it in with a hammer but not push it in easy. Otherwise it's not going to do its job. It's not going to hold any weight. See here, you just tap the last bit in with a hammer. So 1/4 inch and the 3/16 anchors here. So that's the other side. This is drywall or plasterboard in a average wall cavity of a 2x4 stud wall. I'm going to start with the 3/16. See what happens when I drive the provided screw all the way in. It expands a little bit, screw goes through, and it doesn't do much beyond that. But there you over torque, and then the anchor bunches up to help hold against the back of the drywall. This is the trick to making this anchor work, because if you didn't do that extra torquing, you wouldn't have that bunched up part. I've seen videos where this is meant to happen like that. It's meant to ball up like that. It doesn't exactly look like how they have it in their animations, but it does seem to hold a little bit of weight. The trick is to get the screw in where it's snug and continue to turn the screw. That is the key. If you just screw it until it starts to get snug, it won't bunch up like this in the back. Without that bunching up to the back of the drywall, these anchors will fail. You can back the screw up afterwards, so then you can hang a picture or whatever you're putting up on the wall. Give it a little hammer test, and it takes a pretty decent amount of weight. This is not a scientific test here, but I'm putting a pretty decent amount of weight, and the drywall starts to crack before the anchor pulls out. So it's actually not a bad anchor. That's the 1/4 inch on the left. Drywall started to break before I was able to pull it out. And the 3/16, same thing. The wall starts to fail. So these actually wouldn't be too bad for very light things you're going to hang on the wall. The amount of force that I applied on that hammer exceeded the recommended force. So now to try them in concrete. How strong would they be in concrete? So the left anchor here is actually in a hole that may have been stripped, because I put in 2 Tapcon anchors in and out. So it's not as good of a hole. This hole here is a 5mm hole. It had 1 concrete anchor that I carefully unthreaded. And this thing is in there. Like I said before, this hole may have been a little bit too large. You want to make sure you're putting it into a fresh hole the proper size. And this hole here, you could hang hundreds of pounds on that. So would it work for drywall? I wouldn't recommend it. If you're going to put something heavy on a wall, of course you want to put it into a stud. But if you have to put it in the drywall, you're probably going to want to have something that grabs onto the back of the drywall much better than this bunched up ball of plastic. Something like a toggle bolt or a snap toggle, something like that. If it's going to be light, I typically just do the screw-in anchors because they're easier. But for concrete, the 1/4 inch, I would highly recommend it. Similarly, if you're installing in plaster, these Duocons would probably work similar to how it worked in concrete. It's going to expand and push in, and actually is supposed to push into cavities, if there's any cavities in the hole, and it'll actually grab even better. So I would recommend these things in concrete or plaster. In drywall or plasterboard, I would look elsewhere. Hopefully this is helpful. Please subscribe for more tips just like this.